welcome the
As you very well know, the Nabagereka'S has been a leader in ensuring that every child in Uganda Kingdom, but over the course of time, through the Nabagereka Foundation, her work has become a global. It's paramount that you have proneness such as that of the Nabagereka.
Please, you can have your seats. Thank you.
To join us. Recognized by Decent Africa, the African woman exemplifying decency, consistently representing herself to be a part of it. I in person. My name is Priscilla Regina Nalwoga, media professional of exceptional caliber, 9 years of here. Loy Grace, in her capacity, in her role, she is a all right, Loy Grace, from a local level to a regional level to a national level. After all, Nation Media Group is a media of Africa by Africa. Privileged to be your moderator for the discussion this morning.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be here today at the Decent Africa Summit. And we have come together from across the African continent. I understand we have people from different parts of Africa. And we are united by a shared vision of a pandemic-free world where every child has access to the best health and educational opportunities. Today, we will reflect, or actually the panel has already spoken, but we're reflecting on the critical role women have played and will continue to play in shaping the future. The theme, envisioning an HIV-free and pandemic-free world, the role of women in ensuring health and educational opportunities for every child, is a vision that demands our collective effort, courage, and unwavering commitment. Today, I will speak about the importance of women in driving progress in society and how the principles of Ubuntu, such as unity, compassion, and collective responsibility are key to overcoming challenges in health and education. The theme of my keynote address is the Ubuntu Bulamu Pathway, Women Leading the Charge for a Pandemic-Free and Inclusive Future. It is necessary for us to reinforce women's vital contributions to the pillars of health and education. They are critical aspects of our Ubuntu Bulamu philosophy, which calls us to live in harmony with each other and with nature, to care for one another and to take responsibility for the well-being of our community. Ubuntu Bulamu values unity, compassion, and collective responsibility. We all know there are so many other values, but just focusing on those. Now, Ubuntu Bulamu in essence is synonymous to and an amplification of Ubuntu, which is an African philosophy that espouses interconnectedness, humanity, dignity, and communal living. In a publication commissioned by the Nabagereka Development Foundation titled Ubuntu Bulamu, the moral concept and way of life, several societal values that make up Ubuntu Bulamu were identified through broad consultations. Some of the societal values are empathy, selflessness, civic engagement, and proactive leadership, among others. Now, these values are universal and found in communities in all the regions of Uganda and Africa. It's a rich moral repository from which we can draw many lessons for growing and sustaining our society, primarily through women's leadership in healthcare and education. At the heart of Ubuntu Bulam lies the understanding that we are all interconnected. Our health and our education are not isolated struggles, but shared burdens and shared triumphs. The values of unity, compassion, and collective responsibility that define Ubuntu Bulam are the very values that can address today's most pressing health and educational challenges. HIV/AIDS, malaria, maternal mortality, and the educational barriers faced by girls remain key issues across the continent. These challenges cannot be solved in isolation, and they cannot be solved without working together. The values of Ubuntu Bulam offer a pathway that recognizes that the true progress can only be achieved when every individual in our community is cared for and supported. When we approach challenges with unity, compassion, or empathy, and collective responsibility, we ensure that no one is left behind. This is not just a call to action for women, it is a call to action for all of us as we strive towards a pandemic-free and equitable future. Now, leveraging culture frameworks to strengthen community resilience. Africa's strength lies not only in its diversity, but also its rich cultural heritage. From the traditional healers who provided time-honored indigenous medicines that combat diseases like malaria, to the community leaders who advocated for education and built schools, our cultures offer frameworks that have long ensured resilience. As we confront modern health and educational challenges, we must embrace and leverage these culture frameworks. We cannot ignore the wisdom of our elders, the guidance of our community leaders, and the support structures within our societies that have sustained us through many crises. Through Ubuntu Bulam, we learn that we must not discard our cultural wisdom, but adapt to the modern context. Adapt it to the modern context. By bringing together positive traditional practices and constructive modern solutions, we can build communities that are both resilient and empowered to face any challenge. As women, we are keepers and custodians of cultural knowledge and are therefore central to the process of integration and innovation. The critical role of women in ensuring access to health and education. Women have always been at the forefront of community health and education as mothers and daughters. Women are the ones who care for the sick and teach the young. All over Africa, women are the driving force behind efforts to provide healthcare to the most vulnerable, to ensure children are educated, and to build communities where everyone has the opportunity to survive and thrive. Of women's contributions is often overlooked. Women's leadership in health and education is not only important, it is essential. We cannot forget the work that they do on the front lines of healthcare as doctors and nurses in hospitals and rural health centers. For example, COVID-19 pandemic, women in Uganda took on a central role in the crisis as healthcare frontline workers, caregivers, innovators, and community organizers through their exemplary leadership. We recall the nurses, mainly women, who selflessly cared for the COVID-19 hospitals and healthcare centers throughout the country when the entire nation was in lockdown. They clearly espoused service above. And we cannot forget women's roles as fee-paying parents, ensuring that children, especially girls, attend school, as well as the tireless teachers and head teachers who strive to keep our societies running by educating the youth. We must ensure that women are empowered to continue their vital work by providing them the tools, resources, and support they need. Now, examples of successes or successful initiatives led by women reflecting Ubuntu Bulamo principles. Across Africa, women have already begun leading successful initiatives that embody the principles of Ubuntu Bulamo. And I think some of them were among the panelists that were here before me. We really appreciate the kind of work that you do. In Uganda, for example, women have led community-based programs aimed at HIV prevention and awareness. Now, these grassroots movements have transformed communities, excuse me, using education, empathy, and compassion to break the silence and stigma around HIV. Women have not only served as caregivers and educators, but also as champions of change. During the COVID-19 lockdown, we recall the market owners or the market vendors who were primarily female and leaders in their own right, who worked to see that the access to food, healthcare, and other services were not disrupted. We all recall the women who made the markets in Kampala their home, sacrificing taking care of their children in their homes and other domestic work for the common good. These examples show that Ubuntu Bulamo is not a mere ideal. It is a practical, lived reality, one that can create tangible solutions to the challenges we face today. In promoting women's leadership in health and education. Now, as we continue to make strides towards a better future, we must also advocate for women's leadership in decision-making positions within the health and education sectors. I think somebody mentioned a very high number of women parliamentarians and women in leadership role. So far, Uganda is doing quite well, but we still need to do better. Now, women's voices must be heard in policy discussions. I think more women voices in boardrooms and in classrooms and hospitals. To ensure that women can contribute meaningfully, we need to create ways for women to get into leadership positions, whether as technocrats, legislators, educators, or medical experts. Women must be present where decisions are made, excuse me, about the health and the education of their children. They have to be present where those decisions are being made. And I think I must recognize the fact that the Minister of Education in our country is a woman, and we're with her right now. So that's a very dynamic example. We thank you very much, Mama Janeti, for all that you do in the education ministry. Leadership with increased female representation will we create systems that reflect the needs of every community. Effective women leaders tended to communicate directly with women, men, and youth, and did this by projecting calmness, compassion, and empathy. This was clearly demonstrated across the globe during the COVID pandemic.
Showing calmness, compassion, empathy, which are values of Ubuntu Bulam, is not a weakness in any way, but it's a big strength that we should all exercise in all aspects of our lives. Now, overall, women leaders the world over received praise for their successful crisis management style during that crisis, which required them as leaders to show empathy, help people make sense of the crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, and bolster solidarity and trust. They collaborated with a range of public officials, and they put the pandemic response center stage rather than making the pandemic about themselves. Overcoming systemic barriers to women's participation in leadership roles. Unfortunately, barriers to women's participation in leadership remain widespread across Africa. Discriminatory practices, gender stereotypes, and lack of access to education and resources often hinder women from reaching their full potential. So we must work together to dismantle these barriers. By providing education, mentorship, and access to capital, we can empower women to lead. We must also address the negative cultural norms that limit women's opportunities and ensure that women are equipped with the skills and knowledge to excel in leadership roles. Between grassroots organizations, policymakers, and global leaders. The path to a pandemic-free and equitable world requires collaboration at every level. Grassroots organizations, policymakers, and global leaders must come together, working in tandem to create impactful solutions. Collaborations like the Decent Africa Initiative and the Ubuntu Bulemu program of the Nabagereka Development Foundation play a critical role in amplifying the impact of women-led initiatives, enabling resources to flow into local communities and ensuring that the work being done on the ground is supported and scaled. Together we can drive meaningful change. Together we can build a future where every child has access to healthcare and education. And not just healthcare, but quality healthcare and quality education, and where every woman is empowered to lead. Now, addressing financial access barriers for women. One of the greatest challenges to women's full participation in society is financial access. With limited access to capital, women are often unable to invest in viable businesses, higher education, or healthcare and other well-being initiatives. Now, this is a major barrier to economic independence and leadership. So we must tackle this issue by ensuring that women have access to financing, for instance, through microloans, savings and credit cooperative organizations, SACCOs, or government initiatives like the Parish Development Model. Empowering women financially is an essential step toward ensuring that they can contribute fully to society and to the progress of their communities. Empowering women through financial literacy and inclusion. Empowering women is not just about giving them access to money. It is also about providing them with the knowledge and tools to use the money wisely to generate profits for increased investment. By empowering women with financial skills and financial literacy, we enable them to have agency and to make informed decisions about their health, education, and investments. This is the key to long-term sustainable human development. Advocacy for gender responsiveness, health, and education policies. To create lasting change, we must advocate for gender responsive health and education policies that address the unique challenges faced by women and girls. Now, these policies must ensure that resources are allocated to where they are most needed, and that women's needs and priorities are considered in all decision-making processes. Mobilizing resources and political will, we must mobilize resources and political will to ensure that every child has access to quality education and healthcare. Governments, businesses, and civil servants, civil society must come together to commit to the issue or to the cause of health and education for all. Inspiring participants to adopt and implement Ubuntu principles. The COVID-19 pandemic placed many women leaders in the spotlight, both at the national and at the local level. Stereotypically, female traits like compassion and care became more important and more appreciated by the general public. It is the value-based traits that will put women leaders in the forefront to lead the charge for a pandemic-free and inclusive future. Let us therefore institutionalize and use our rich cultural heritage that is steeped in Ubuntu to address the contemporary health and healthcare challenges. Let us take this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to this cause. We are stronger together. It is only by embracing the values of Ubuntu Bulamu where we are all, or where, I must say, we all help each other, have empathy, compassion, that we can build a true inclusive and pandemic-free future. I urge each one of us here today to share the values embedded in Ubuntu Bulamu, namely unity, compassion, and collective responsibility with your communities and within your communities. Let us implement these values in everything we do, ensuring that no one is left behind. I want to conclude by reminding ourselves that the journey toward a pandemic-free and equitable world is not one that we can travel alone. It is a journey that requires collective action through civic engagement, selflessness, and proactive leadership. I thank